I never imagined sharing this story, but perhaps it holds a lesson others can learn from. So here it is. My name is Jenna, and for as long as I can remember, loyalty, honesty, and respect have been the guiding principles in all my relationships. Yet, life has a way of surprising you, and mine took a turn I never expected. It all began on a sunny afternoon. My nephew Sam was spending the summer with me while his parents were away traveling. Sam is a bright, witty, and endlessly curious kid, always eager to explore. I've always encouraged his inquisitiveness, but this time, his curiosity triggered something none of us could have foreseen. To truly explain, I need to go back a few years to when I met David. He wasn't family, but over time he became one of my closest friends, and someone I could rely on for laughter, support, and deep conversations. Our connection was unique, unlike anything I'd experienced before. There was an unspoken understanding between us, something profound. We respected other people, and we knew I was married, and he never crossed that line. At least that's what I believed. One particular afternoon, while Sam was out with friends, I found myself alone and thought it would be a good moment to catch up with David. Our phone calls had become a comforting ritual, a space to laugh and talk about things we couldn't share with others. Little did I know that this call would change everything. I remember every detail. David's voice was familiar, warm, and soothing. As we talked, the conversation shifted to deeper topics, dreams, struggles, and the hollow moments in life. He spoke of difficulties in his relationship, the growing distance he felt. I listened, understanding in a way I hadn't expected, but I reminded myself that I was just a friend, nothing more. Still, as the conversation continued, I felt something shift, a strange pull toward him, a longing I couldn't quite understand crept in. I tried to dismiss it, but the feeling lingered, unsettling me. It's strange how quickly things can go from simple to complicated. Just as our conversation turned more personal, I heard footsteps on the porch. My heart raced as I ended the call abruptly, trying to compose myself and push away the emotions swirling within me. When I turned toward the door, there stood Sam. His wide eyes locked on me as if he'd caught me doing something wrong. I quickly brushed it off, asking him about his day and making small talk, but something felt off. He had a look of quiet curiosity, almost as if he sensed that something wasn't quite right. Later that evening, while preparing dinner, David's words echoed in my mind. Our conversation replayed over and over, and I began questioning myself. Was I wrong to feel this way? Was it a mistake to let these feelings exist unaddressed? Guilt gnawed at me, but I couldn't ignore the undeniable connection we shared. I knew a decision had to be made, either create distance between us or confront my emotions directly before they jeopardized everything I'd worked to build. At the time, I didn't realize this was just the start of a series of events that would force everything into the open. Over the next few nights, I struggled to sleep, burdened by guilt and confusion. I worried if Sam had overheard anything, and how much he might have understood. But more than that, I couldn't stop thinking about David, his voice, his warmth, and the comfort he brought me. What had started as a simple friendship had evolved into something far more complicated, and I could no longer deny it. A few days later, David called again. I hesitated, knowing that answering would only deepen my confusion, but curiosity got the better of me, and I picked up. He was as kind and funny as ever, asking about my day and listening attentively. Talking to him always felt good, but as we chatted, I noticed Sam lingering in the hallway, watching me with that same curious expression. I quickly ended the call and asked if he needed anything. He hesitated, then walked over and sat across from me, looking unusually serious. "Aunt Jenna," he began. "Who's David?" My heart sank. Children are perceptive, but I hadn't realized just how much Sam had picked up on. Trying to remain calm, I explained that David was a longtime friend. But Sam wasn't convinced. With a maturity that caught me off guard, he replied, "It doesn't seem like you're just friends." His words hit me hard. The last thing I wanted was for my nephew to view me poorly, especially when I hadn't technically done anything wrong. Or had I? Emotional bonds can be just as powerful as physical ones, and the weight of that realization pressed down on me. In the days that followed, I wrestled with my feelings, knowing I needed to face the truth about what was happening. Summoning a rare surge of courage, I called David and asked if we could meet in person. It was time to have the honest conversation I'd been avoiding. We agreed to meet at a small cafe on the outskirts of town, far from prying eyes. When I saw him walk in, my heart raced, and I hated myself for how I felt. I felt a mix of shame and uncertainty, unsure how to begin. But when David looked at me, with that familiar, gentle expression, my hesitation faded. "Jenna," he said softly, "I think we both know there's more happening here than either of us wants to admit." I nodded, avoiding his gaze. He continued, "We're close, and I care about you a lot, but it's not fair to us or the people in our lives." We sat in silence, each lost in thought. He was right. We had wandered into something that, while thrilling, was ultimately leading us down a destructive path. As hard as it was, I knew it had to end. Saying goodbye to David felt like losing a piece of myself. But alongside the sadness, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. I understood that I had made the right decision, one that allowed me to move forward with integrity. Driving home, I felt both lighter and unsettled. There was so much to process, but I knew I had avoided crossing a line I would have regretted. When I walked through the door, Sam was there, his expression almost relieved, as if he could sense the burden I had let go of. I sat beside him, and without speaking, he gave me a small nod, a silent confirmation that I'd done the right thing. This experience taught me that even the deepest friendships can blur into dangerous territory if left unchecked. It also reminded me how crucial it is to establish boundaries and remain true to the values that define us. That night, for the first time in a while, I drifted into a deep sleep. My heart still ached slightly, but there was a newfound peace within me. However, the story didn't end there. After parting ways with David, I began to notice gaps in my life that I hadn't fully acknowledged before. Perhaps these were the very voids that had drawn me to him in the first place. In the days that followed, I faced these feelings head-on, reflecting on the parts of my life that felt incomplete. I thought about my marriage, the moments when communication seemed to falter, and the times I felt alone despite being with someone. Confronting these truths wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary if I wanted to find genuine peace. One evening, I summoned the courage to have an honest conversation with my husband. Taking a deep breath, I shared how I had been feeling, the distance between us, and the weight it had placed on me. I didn't mention David. It wasn't relevant. This was about us and what we needed to fix. To my surprise, he truly listened. He admitted that he had felt a similar disconnect, but hadn't known how to address it. That conversation marked a turning point. Over the following weeks, we both began making the effort we had neglected for too long. We planned more time together, shared our thoughts openly, and slowly began rebuilding the bond we once had. It wasn't an immediate transformation, and there were challenges along the way, but we were finally moving in the right direction. As for Sam, I made a deliberate effort to be more open with him, to help him understand that life is rarely simple, but that honesty and integrity can guide us through even the most complex situations. His sharp perception and curiosity had brought the truth to light, and I wanted to honor that by showing him the importance of making the right choices. Looking back, I see this experience as a wake-up call, a reminder of the relationships that truly matter. Sometimes it takes a difficult moment to reveal what we've been neglecting. For me, this was both painful and transformative. I learned that, while life can pull us in unexpected directions, we have the power to correct our course. And in doing so, we discover a resilience and strength we never knew we had.